Okay, here we go. Moving right along. Today we're going to deal with math. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we're going to do the math using integers that the user types in. Now I've written the entire program which I'm posting on the web page, and I'm going to walk through it, and I encourage you to type the program rather than just copy and paste from the web page so that you really understand what's going on. So let's take a look and see. Well, of course we have our import java.util.scanner, and that's going to make sure that we have what we need to get input from the user. We have our class definition, which we're calling it computations, and then our main function. And I'm hoping that by now you have this memorized so that you can type at any time. Okay, so we're going to declare two variables. Not string variables, integer variables. That's left over from previous code. Declare integer variables. There we go. You got to keep your comments up to date. And we're going to define an x and a y. And the idea is that we are going to prompt the user for an x value and a y value, and then we're going to do the math on those two values. Okay, so we're going to, of course, create an instance of the scanner object so that we can get input from the user. And we're going to prompt for the very first number by saying type an integer, and we're going to read that integer into variable x using the nextInt method of the reader object. NextInt will read in whatever the user types in as an integer. If the user types in something that's not an integer, it's going to generate an error. We prompt the user to type in another integer. We're going to assign that to variable y. Here's where we do the math. I'm creating 4 integer variables, and I'm assigning the result of the mathematical equation to those variables. So here I have an integer called add, and I'm assigning that to x plus y. Integer named sub, and I'm giving that value to x minus y. Mult is x times y. And div is x divided by y. Okay, now we have our math, and we're going to print it out. So, for example, I have system.out.println x plus the plus sign plus y equals add. Now remember, when we're using println, this plus sign here means it's a concatenation. It means it's taking x and it's creating a string that's adding to that string this value, which is space plus sign space. Then we're adding to that string the value of y, and then to that string we're adding space equals space, and then finally we're adding the result of the addition, so that it prints out something that's readable to the user. It can be difficult getting used to this notation because we're used to seeing the plus sign as meaning a mathematical operation. But in Java, the plus sign is used in math, but it's also used to concatenate values together into a string. So then we have the minus sign, the times sign, and the divide sign. And finally, I'm printing out a note to the user informing them that integer division will truncate or cut off the decimal portion of the result. We're going to see what that means in a little while. And finally, we close out the reader object. So let's compile this, and we're going to run it. so it's asking for the first integer. I'm going to use 5. Another integer, 7. Here we go. 5 plus 7 equals 12. 5 minus 7 equals negative 2. 5 times 7 is 35. And 5 divided by 7 equals 0? Integer division will truncate the decimal portion of the result. So 5 divided by 7 is actually 0 point something. But because we're dividing integers, Java is just going to ignore the decimal portion and just give you the non-decimal portion of the number. Let's try this again with a couple of different numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to use 100 and 7. Okay, so 100 plus 7 is 107, 100 minus 7 is 93, 100 times 7 is 700, 100 times 7 is 14. And 100 divided by 7 is not 14 exactly, but because we're dealing with integer math, we are truncating the decimal portion. So that's it for basic integer math. In the next portion, we'll be getting into doing math using decimal numbers. That's it for now.